This just in from Chris Whitty. Having grown tired of shilling vaccines for Big Pharma, the Chief Medical Officer has turned his eyes to the glory of the sun monster. He says that burning wet wood indoors is significant air polluter and people should be encouraged to stop. Stop having your fires. Stop your jungle TV. Stop it all. He also claims indoor air pollution caused by domestic heating system, aerosols and cooking appliances are becoming an increasingly problem for the nation's health. With me to debate this topic, I'm delighted to welcome Environment Editor from the Daily Skeptic, Chris Morrison, and Pete Knapp, air quality PhD student and spokesperson for Extinction Rebellion.
Good evening.
How are you guys? You look more like a stockbroker than a man from Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah, I know. On my way over here, I was thinking, I've got to look smart. I'm going to be on the telly, so I'm going to go. And I went to a charity shop and I found this absolute stunner of a shirt.
It's a barnstormer. You're going to go first as a result. What do you think of Chris telling everyone not to have their lovely fires?
I work in air pollution after having worked as a maths teacher in Beijing. And that's where I saw the smog really affecting children's health. And that's what caused a big change in my perception of air quality. When I came back to the UK, I thought, OK, I'm going to make a change now. So I started a PhD in indoor air quality, actually, what you were saying before. That's changed a little bit since COVID, but now, that's my area of expertise. And I'm really committed to saving lives through reducing air pollution.
Noble cause. Chris, what do you think?
Well, we would all like to save lives through air pollution. The Whitty report was very interesting. In fact, I read it, and there's quite a bit of science in it. He does talk about how, over the last few decades, pollution has declined dramatically because we've used industrialisation to clean up, as industrialised societies do clean up. If we're going to start, you were right at the beginning, Lawrence, when you talked about it being a bit of a smokescreen for net zero. It's yet more nannying from the governing elites, pushing us towards consuming less, basically. And if we're going to get worried about wood-burning fires, then we ought to close down the Drax power station in Yorkshire, which produces 6% of the electricity and produces it from wood pellets, which we bring over thousands of miles over from North America. And for some inexplicable reason, this is counted as green renewable energy. So it's OK, I guess, to carry on with that nonsense with 800 million, I think, of subsidies over the years. But if you want to light a wood fire, a cheap wood fire in your home, then there seems to be a problem.
Pete, as far as I remember, trees are renewable.
Yeah.
So are they not a renewable energy source?
Well, not really. I mean, even though trees grow, right, they are renewable in that sense. There's a lot more detail within that. So, for example, if you had an old wood that's got old trees and new trees and the biodiversity flourishes in an ecosystem that has a mixture of ages of trees. Normally, when you're trying to harvest wood, you have monocultures of trees, which is a kind of a biodiversity dead zone. So we try to discourage monocultures of crops and of trees. We've seen this actually. Latvia is most of their wood goes to the UK to be burnt, and we've seen drastic declines in their birds, their woodland birds, because of this kind of.
So their biodiverse forests are getting cut down, shipped over here.
Yeah,
we're not growing our own. I used to live with 1,000 acres of woodland above me, which was chopped down repeatedly.
Yeah, well, I mean, the UK unfortunately is one of the most nature-depleted countries, and it has been that way over the past 1,000 years.
On an emotional level, though, I remember army friends of mine saying they call a wood fire jungle television. It's just like you can't stop looking at it. It fills the human being with such joy to be able to be warmed by something, to feel a little bit like you were part of making it. Can you empathise with people that want to keep that going on in their life?
Absolutely. I think fire is fascinating. It's plasma. It's not one of the three solid liquid gas phases that you get taught at school. It's this interesting flickering madness which is always changing, and I find it fascinating. The trouble with that is that when you're burning wood, the smoke that is produced goes in up the chimney and into the neighbourhood, and this is where the problem lies, because it's people.
Does the wind deal with that?
It does, yeah.
Takes it away a bit.
Not really, no, because you're producing in such high quantities. So 8% of homes in the UK burn wood, but it causes 40% of the primary air pollution in the UK. So it's a small amount of...
Don't tell Sadiq Khan that.
Right. But it's a small amount of wood burning, but it does create a large amount of pollution.
OK, I don't think anyone would deny that wood burning would create pollution, depending on what we believe pollution is. You know, compared to, as you say, it's the anniversary of the smog 70 years ago this week, and we seem to have done a great deal to reduce pollution. Chris?
Yes. Again, we go back to what they're trying to do. What are they trying to do? Stop us burning wood? If they're worried about the stuff that goes into the atmosphere, the best thing to do is burn natural gas. It produces very little that other than CO2.
But we're talking specifically about wood, and I think Pete has made some pretty good points. What do we have to counter him on the wood issue, particularly?
Whether we should, I suppose you could argue that wood is used by, I mean, where I live near Wimbledon Common, you used to be able to collect it. They would put it in piles. Now that's all been banned. It's a cheap form of energy. We're required to take on more expensive forms of energy, heat pumps, air pumps. Good luck trying to get warmth out the air at the moment, outside and out of the ground. But I think it's all to do with demonising pollution. It's all to do with, human beings are messy. In order to live in a civilised industrial society, we have to have energy. We have to combust things. We have to burn things. We just have to accept that there is always going to be a certain amount of pollution around. We're human beings. We've lived with it. The alternative is to put on our Puritan hats and stop doing everything that's bad for us. Stop keeping ourselves warm, live in a cave, and where will that get us?
What's the technology? Is there any technology to have a wood burner that has like a filter that takes out all of the rubbish? And can be taken away and transported and disposed of safely. Is there something there, or is it just blanket ban on burning of wood?
Well, if only that were the case, if there were some way to actually scrub out all of the pollution.
Well, they do in power stations, don't they? In coal-fired power stations, they have ways of getting rid of the nastiest of the nasty.
Sure, yeah, they're very expensive to run. When I was living in China, they didn't turn them on very often because they were so expensive to run. Right. But yes, scrubbers are a thing. If you were to be very, very wealthy, perhaps you could do that in your chimney if you really, really wanted to burn that wood. But there's within the wood-burning trade, there's something called an eco-stove. And when that has been marketed as being...
I already don't like the sound of it.
No.
I hate the sound of it already.
Yeah.
What's it powered by?
Well, eco-stove is powered with wood.
Right.
But it produces about the equivalent of 18 diesel exhaust particle emissions.
Well, fortunately, they're getting banned.
Well, no, this is a Euro 6 standard, right?
All right.
And having a wood-burning stove is effectively having an exhaust pipe on top of your house.
But that's what I love. I love driving through the country of an evening and looking at the local pub, and you go and the lights are on and you know there's a wood-burning fire there, and you know there are patrons sat outside nursing their pints, smoking, because that's awful as well. And you see the smoke drifting across the landscape because we have this wonderful thing called wind. And you just go, I don't want to swap that.
Well, we accept a certain amount of pollution because we exist. We're humans. Yeah. That's the point. And so
like
Whitty is
farting.
Whitty's, yes, and humans do as well. And we just create indoor pollution out wherever we go. Human beings are messy, but we that's what we do. I mean, nature is messy in that sense. What Whitty seems to be doing is he seems to be putting on a Puritan's pointed hat and trying to ban everything.
He just sticks his nose into everything.
Yeah.
You, by the way, are the most sane person I've met who would speak for Extinction Rebellion.
Well, I'm very glad to hear it. I mean, there are plenty of us within the group.
Right, they're screaming at me in my ear. Gentlemen, thank you very much for not debating and being really polite to each other.
It's a pleasure.
It's not how it works on this channel.
We should have more of this, right?
Yeah. He's
He's too reasonable.
Coming up, I will be discussing Elon's takeover